Let us execute an immediate, sweeping analytical vector shift away from rural Midwestern cabins, wilderness isolation grids, and geographic captivity parameters, and plunge straight into the high-octane calculation-heavy tracking grids of elite high society celebration dynamics, weaponized multi-perspective whodunit deployment loops, and the fiercely protective, dangerously fragile world of an endangered collection of raw wedding party and historic trauma survival assets running a raw tactical survival loop. We are crossing the threshold directly into the hyper-monitored, paranoia-slicked parameters of a scorched, high-density remote Irish island layout, exploring the lethal analytical parameters of a devastating, storm-locked execution matrix with The Guest List, the exceptional, pulse-pounding contemporary thriller and comprehensive classic mystery reinvention compendium engineered by the absolute undisputed global sovereign of breathtaking ensemble secrets, razor-sharp narrative traps, and high-velocity structural friction, Lucy Foley. This high-stakes narrative tracking sequence delivers an exceptional look at an operational crossroads where an endangered primary celebrity magazine publisher asset running an unyielding truth extraction loop, a calculating manipulative shadow network of toxic boarding school heritages, and an absolute defense against an encroaching ocean-confined blackout containment zone collide at terminal velocity. Let us map the strategic narrative grid. If you are an elite enthusiast of high-octane, slow-burn creative journeys where endangered, hyper-observant bridesmaid and event planner protagonists must navigate an absolute maze of rigged character perspectives, corrupt historic academic registers, and a deadly ring of active personal deadline frame-ups while running a blind survival loop inside a completely compromised coastal ecosystem where an analytical mind uses deep psychological profiling, calculated cliffside boundaries, and absolute emotional stamina to outmaneuver an invisible predatory executioner asset, weaponizing highly advanced interpersonal gaslighting and social prestige mechanics, and where the author utilizes an incandescent, meticulously paced island isolation incubator tracking a glamorous celebrity wedding where attendees deploy advanced evasive tradecraft and clandestine historical dossiers to systematically forge a seemingly impenetrable defense before crossing a terminal exposure milestone, diagnostic routine to test our hero's structural limits. This book is engineered to lock you in. Foley completely dominates the high-precision, unreliable narrator jeopardy meets suffocating narrative erasure puzzles dynamic, capturing the heart-racing intellectual momentum, suffocating blank-page paranoia, and heavy deductive depth popularized by genre variacs like Agatha Christie, Gillian Flynn, Ruth Ware, and Frida McFadden, while treating realistic baseline terminology logistics, complex dark possessive loyalty arcs, and protective high-density isolation extraction grids with absolute technical mastery. The narrative tracking grid zeroes in on the highly volatile, calculation-heavy baseline of our central legendary powerhouse creative asset, operating under a severe calculation-heavy handicap of a total loss of atmospheric safety networks, absolute structural liquidation logs, and a hyper-visible targeting canvas within a cutthroat high-society social matrix. Behind our protagonist Jules Keegan's rigorous daily footprints, defensive conversational shields, and sharp observation metrics lies an intricate matrix of hidden structural vulnerabilities, deeply buried survival instincts, and sharp, high-stakes tactical maneuvers. Her collective defense mechanisms are locked down tight following an abrupt plot outline deviation sequence, her ultra-glamorous wedding to a rising television star turning into a psychological hunting ground, her entire analytical focus strictly consumed by monitoring sudden threat vectors from a network of internal distraction forces, parsing complex behavioral shifts in her daily multi-POV guest interaction loops, and shielding her vulnerable personal sovereignty node from being entirely wiped out by a ruthless unseen executioner offensive. The spark ignites when an unexpected high-frequency structural anomaly breaches her active scanning perimeter. While sorting through a series of routine pre-ceremony celebration logs on the remote, treacherous Innis Og, our primary asset registers a total security breach when her groom's psychological onboarding sequence initializes an irregular descent into active historic cruelty logs, systematically tracking hidden midnight bog tracks, forbidden schoolboy hazing coordinates, and unvetted past suicide associations, forcing her into a proximity tracking matrix with an oncoming narrative resolution. Behind the wealthy digital media world's pristine, sweet aesthetic facade and elite behavioral mapping style lies an intricate matrix of severe ideological warfare and a cold, calculation-heavy target containment blueprint. As the hostile adversarial investigation phases enter an increasingly lethal terminal tier across a ticking clock timeline, the unauthorized discovery of missing historical truth templates, hidden intimate motivations, and altered geographic tracking templates reveals that her entire celebration sanctuary was an explicitly engineered trap. The standard boundaries of routine party courtesy and peaceful civilian compliance protocols crumble, and our central protagonist run completely out of standard diplomatic escape vectors. She is thrust directly into an active, invisible war behind closed castle doors, where a highly manipulative psychological gaslighting matrix launches aggressive countermeasures to permanently suppress her survival data stream and execute her complete systemic erasure.
The tactical parameters instantly explode as their social and survival war turns completely active, transforming the large wedding tents, dark peat box, and private fortified stone keep chambers into a volatile psychological pressure cooker and a physical battle zone. Our protective, hyper-vigilant heroine is forced to deploy her massive intuitive tradecraft, elite behavioral mapping skills, and raw physical stamina to preserve her focus before her adversary's relentless calculation-heavy proximity containment phase permanently deletes her boundaries. The threat vector remains purposeful and resolute, shifting dynamically through precise execution guidelines across 5 competing character perspectives: the bride, the +1, the best man, the wedding planner, the bridesmaid, from initial fairy arrival loops to final strong blackout discovery loops, determined to deploy deep sensory manipulation loops, continuous psychological gaslighting via digital distraction maneuvers, and persistent dominance to shatter her defense, only to realize her hardened survival protocols and shifting counter-narratives match their opponent's raw tactical speed step for step. Every midnight archival excavation of personal legal journals, every silent choice to stand off against an electronic apex predator behind standard structural barriers, and every intense moment of channeling raw, unyielding survival mechanics chips away at her reliance on original peaceful rules. What follows is an exceptional high-stakes war of perspective, tactical position, and raw human grit. We watch the Predator Network's deceptive perimeters completely unwrapped as Lucy Foley reveals that the true victory requires more than just surviving an initial week 1 ambush or managing an invasive marital disclosure. It demands an absolute, uncompromising defense of individual dignity, personal truth, and systemic survival against a cold, calculating machine of domestic manipulation and absolute structural supremacy. While our central characters smooth over each other's psychological and defensive blind spots with devastating analytical force, creating a fiercely protective, absolute web of dark possessive loyalty around their building creative survival alliance, a brutal series of close-quarters tactical confrontations and high-stakes midstream point-of-view shifts switches the clock into its terminal phase, proving that deep-seated obsession has tracked them to their final outpost. To survive the impending locked grid trap and permanently secure her sanctuary, our resilient protagonist must unleash an absolute, unyielding defense of her final boundary lines. It is a high-velocity classic whodunit, island captivity noir, multi-perspective envy mystery, and high-velocity contemporary puzzle masterpiece that treats deep relational logistics and intense structural friction with elite precision. The tension here burns with a sharp, calculation-heavy intensity. We're talking about that high-frequency, one unreliable narrator lie triggers a fatal deadline showdown energy, where a sudden pause during an active franchise tactical briefing, an unexpected shift in an adversary's protective physical posture during a high-stakes standoff confrontation, or a heavy possessive realization that an elite intelligence operative has completely mapped your personal coordinates carries massive structural weight. Foley writes with an exceptionally fresh, vivid, and beautifully blunt voice, capturing the heavy, oppressive atmosphere of a private executive vault before a major corporate fallout, and the distinct, subtle scent of salty sea spray, damp peat earth, vintage champagne, smartphone glare, cold sweat, dark adrenaline, and pure, unadulterated suspense. What truly elevates this contemporary instructional marvel into elite territory is the author's unmatched ability to balance complex, high-stakes relationship dynamics and genuine protective power tradecraft alongside a breathtaking narrative pace and deep emotional hooks. Our protagonists don't rely on unbelievable superficial Hollywood superhero action tropes. Their immense situational intelligence, strategic patience, and profound survival instincts match the complexity of the chaotic modern corporate and high society underworld they dominate step for step, making their choices to risk everything feel profoundly authentic and deeply gripping. The pacing moves with calculated momentum, tracking intense conversational standoffs and breathtaking tactical breakthroughs before ratcheting up to an absolute jaw-dropping conclusion that delivers total, hard-earned advancement to their horizon. The guest list is the definitive, pro-level upgrade your high-stakes contemporary thriller and intense asset suspense library demands right now. It is elegant, immensely fast-paced, and utterly unputdownable. It proves that when your entire sanctuary is targeted by a cold, calculating institutional monster, the most revolutionary play you can execute is to lock your perimeters, trust your elite survival training, and fight like hell alongside your network to rewrite the data. So, secure your personal reading sanctuary, review your emotional defensive perimeters, open your Kindle, and prepare to track the